Welcome to the Yoga of Healing and Awakening Summit, a free online event where you'll discover essential depth teachings and daily practices for your mind, body, and soul. Share these visionary masters and esteemed practitioners with your friends and family, and join us on Facebook at The Shift Network. And now your host, Philip Helmick.
All right, folks, welcome back. I'm so excited about this session. I'm Philip Helmick, the Director of Peace of the Shift Network, and we are going to be talking with Kia Miller, someone who I've had a delight to be with for 4 years in a row there in Rishikesh, India. And I just think the world of Kia. And so let me say a little bit about Kia, and we'll welcome her on officially here. So Kia is an internationally celebrated yoga teacher whose mission is to inspire as many people as possible to awaken to their power and potential through the practice and lifestyle of yoga. She is the founder of Radiant Body Yoga, which has its roots in the ancient Kundalini and Tantric traditions, and we'll be exploring more about Kundalini here. And more importantly, just from my heart, the times I've with you and Tommy, Kia, in Rishikesh, and the times we've interviewed and learning so much about your background and your heart and your authentic desire to embody the principles of yoga and then to act in the world with those. It's been really, really quite a pleasure. So thank you for coming back to the summit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And this time we're going to be exploring more around yoga for healing and awakening, particularly you're looking at why Kundalini works and how to make it work for you. In the past, we've talked about, you growing up in the Falklands and in the war there and how that inspired you to really become active. But now, it's yoga as a way for promoting peace. This time, let's just dive in a little bit more around the yogic principles here.
Yeah.
If you could just describe, what is a human being from a yogic perspective?
Yeah, it blew my mind when I came to understand myself from the human perspective and just how the yogis see a human being, because it took me from relating to myself simply as a physical body and the myriad of identities that we give ourselves, whether it's woman or wife or yoga teacher or, from the Falklands, all those identities, versus this understanding of this true intelligence that is living and breathing through what we know of as ourselves, this physiology, this nervous system, this vehicle, you could say. And I came to understand how yoga works when I was introduced to the yogic model for the human being. So the understanding that, yes, we have a physical body that we feed through food, that we keep healthy through exercise and food, but that also we have this thing that we call the energy body, which the beauty of today's world is that science is revealing this, that the yogis understood about the energy body, that we all have a magnetic field, for example, that there is this life force that animates us at the deepest level possible. And the yogis came to understand that actually learning how to move this energy within us was the key to transformation, to transforming our state of consciousness, to healing old traumas and beliefs and emotional and mental patterning. So looking at ourselves from the perspective of energy and life force, vitality, if you like, is another word for it. And then understanding that we also have this, what we recognize as our mind. And the yogis laid out such a beautiful model for understanding the mind, how what I would call our surface mind operates in receiving information through our senses that we then read, that we may relate to with a certain egoic part of the mind that can make something relevant to us. Oh, I smell something. the smell of coffee, and that egoic identity may have a like or a dislike around that, or an identification to it. And then this sort of ability that we all have, sort of the intellectual mind, if you like, to categorize, to separate things, to create a story around something. And so when I came to understand that actually people have figured out really how the mind operates, and that then beneath all of that, which is really where all the yogic practices are guiding us, is this witness, consciousness, this capacity to be supremely present. Mm-hmm. And that's really the part I want to talk about today, because that's where true evolution comes from. So the awareness body, we call it in yoga, the wisdom body, or the awareness body that sits really under the surface mind. And when we balance and calm the surface mind, we get access to that wisdom body. And beneath that is what the yogis have called our bliss body. That ultimately, once you refine from physical identity to energy management down through the mental constructs into awareness, then subtler than that is really just this reverberation, that the closest name we could give it is bliss, which is why they say our true nature is bliss, which just seemed like such a strange, like out there concept to me when I first started yoga. I was like, well, great. But how do you access that? And how do I know that? And so the practices that I've been blessed with practicing and teaching for many years now really have enabled me to not just experience my physicality, but to experience energy, to feel the movement of energy, to learn how to awaken it, how to direct it, and how to stabilize it where I want that energy to be, and how to work with my mind so that I'm not identifying with my thinking, but I'm able to actually live in a more witness perspective. So then I don't get caught in all of my stories or reactivity. And then through the practice is actually glimpsing true embodied bliss. And yeah.
As you're describing this, we're also thinking about the busyness of the world and how people are busy and acting and reacting. There's so much stimulus with media and this and that. And yet underneath all these different layers is this bliss body.
Yes.
And so what's interesting, I've been with you on the banks of the Ganges.
Yes.
Fire ceremonies, and where for thousands of years these yogis have been refining this ancient science. And then you are now really helping people bring that awareness into a world where the idea of bliss being underneath all of this can seem foreign. Yeah. So what kind of practices do you teach, and how do they work that help people to start to navigate, the physical, the energetic, the different parts of the mental mind, and so that they can start to experience?
Wonderful. Great question. And yes, yoga is a systematic practice. There's definitely a starting point. I don't think there's ever an end point per se, because it's just further deeper levels of subtlety of understanding of ourself and our relationship to the universe, to the collective. But there's definitely a starting point. And I think that starting point is having a positive relationship with our physical body. And I know that just the number of eating disorders or, body dysmorphia that exists in our modern world, that having a positive relationship and healthy relationship with our body is very important. I used to dissociate a lot in my earlier life. Just the emotional realm was too complicated for me. So it was easier just to sort of check out. So learning how to balance your physical body, get your nervous system in a nice balanced state, so we're not living in that sort of anxiety or super pumped place, and we're not living in a sort of depressed, disconnect place, but learning how to balance the nervous system through physical activity. And it doesn't have to be yogic asana, but yoga asana does help to balance the left and right sides of the body, helps to balance the left and right sides of the brain, so that we can start to access a more stable sense of embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
So for sure, that is really, I feel, an important thing. We all need to move our bodies to keep them healthy and to stay thriving. And, you know, just to throw out there, in the yoga tradition, 120 would be like the normal lifespan. And somewhere we've decided that, you know what, 70, 80, 90s, if you're lucky. Wow, if you get to 100, you're really rocking. But actually, there's at least another 20 years on top of that, which would be a norm if we're living optimally. And who knows beyond that. So keeping our physical body in shape. And then on the energetic level, when we start to work with the breath, just lengthening our exhales has an extraordinary effect on our physiology. Again, on the nervous system, on calming the mind. So if we're living in anxiety, which many people are, it's so helpful just to begin to breathe more deeply on the exhale. Mm-hmm. Breathe more deeply overall, but definitely on the exhale. And then there's many practices in the Kundalini tradition where we're pumping the navel and we're stimulating through the breath and through the movement of the body. So for example, let's just do something for a few moments here. Okay. I want you to reach your arms up and then make a fist before you pull your hands down and strike your ribs. Okay. So you inhale and then exhale. If you're watching, I really want you to do this with us so you feel it. So you inhale, reach up, you make a little fist with your hands and your elbows strike your ribs on your exhale. Good, and right about now you're probably feeling some level of resistance, and that's good, because as soon as you hit a level of resistance, but you go past it, you start to free up a little bit of energy. Maybe it was a mental stuckness, or just a physical, or even energetic. And so what we're doing right now is we're stimulating the lymphatic system. We are stimulating the pranic energy, that life force energy. So we're creating a little bit more of a feeling of expansiveness. So let's just now take a deep inhale, stretch up, pause the breath, and just hold the breath a moment. Be very still. And then exhale, slowly release your hands down. And then just sit for a moment with your eyes closed. Start to breathe deeply. Stay very still. And just notice how your energy feels. And for some of us, it's another language to learn, feeling into our energy. But after we've done that, you may feel a little bit more spacious, a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter than before. And the moment we shift our energy in this way, the kinds of thoughts and emotions that we had in a different energetic state, they've transformed and there's something else available. So we tune in, we start to sense what's opening within us. And just staying present and connected right here, right now, we are creating a energetic rebalancing. The moment we hold our attention consciously within the field of our body and we've worked and we've moved the energy a little, we invite a deeper coherence, a deeper harmonization to happen. And this is where, you know, the dance, the journey of healing really begins. So whenever you're ready, just opening your eyes. How did that feel?
Wonderful. Thank you for that practical experience. I love it. I love it. And you know, it's just a taste. It's just a taste. And so without overly intellectualizing, it's a little bit more, you know, how is it that Kundalini is working? Okay, so this is one of many different types of exercises that you're doing.
Well, in the simplest way that I can put it, we're stimulating energy, and we are learning to direct and stabilize that energy. So here we are, we're pumping our elbows, we're stimulating energy up around the chest, the heart region. And then when we stop, we stay centered, and we could bring our attention to our heart center, for example. And as we hold our attention there, all that energy that we just stimulated starts to stabilize in that area. And as the energy stabilizes, it starts to shift some of the old patterns that we might have been holding in this area of our body. And so new openings, new awareness can happen. And so depending on how long you do the practice for, how deep it is, you know, the harmony, the harmonization that's happening is going to happen on a deeper and deeper level, on all those levels of our being. Right, especially on that sort of mental, energetic, physical levels, they all start to harmonize. And what happens ultimately as a result of these practices is we start to create a much more refined connection to ourself, to that sense of our unlimited self, that sense of just who am I if I just get really still and I shift my energy so my mind is not dominating me in the way that it may normally. Well, who am I in this space? And what does it feel like to be me when my energy has been shifted and transformed? And so, you know, slowly we start to literally grow a new identity. Which is actually our original identity through these practices, because the person that I am when I'm activated and aligned and centered is very different than the person that I am when I'm sort of being driven by this kind of momentum of all of my past and my mind and my should have and my would have and I could have and who do they want me to be and what do I have to do, and I'm so busy, and now I'm checking my social media, now I'm overwhelmed, and all of that is so informing the choices that we're making, the way we're making them, the intention underneath it. And if we can just keep clearing all of that and coming into conscious contact with ourselves, then everything that we do coming from our conscious contact with self is going to be in alignment with our soul, with our true identity, and is going to naturally have a more evolutionary flavor to it. In yoga, we kind of look at actions that are going to bring more bondage to us because they're rooted in pain and suffering from the past. That is informing me making that decision. I'm going to do this because I've always done this. Versus, wait, I'm going to just set myself, tune in, and feel what wants to happen next. And learning how to connect to that deep spontaneity and actual, you know, adaptability to each moment and what happens then is we can really let go of the constant worry about the future, the, you know, blame in past or resentments, and just start to find the joy of living in the spontaneous moment. And it may sound kind of pretty out there if you're new to this. And certainly this wasn't the discussion that I was having when I first came into yoga. But this is where I am today, having been in this for, I don't know, 30 years probably by now. And feeling the exponential growth that's taken place in my life as soon as I started to learn how to shift my energy, transform my emotional traumas and my limiting beliefs, and start to live in a more free way with greater fulfillment. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, Kia. You know, as you describe it, I can just really sense the authenticity of your experience. And you know, so this provides a glimpse, you know, so Kundalini, you're working with, you know, you have Kriyas, you have pranayama, meditation, a whole range of different tools. And ultimately, we're coming to this place of this deeper stillness of self.
Yes.
That is also in motion.
Yes.
And so let's talk about a little bit more for people who are listening to this. And for some folks, they may be embodying that already, or they may have had glimpses of it, or it may seem so foreign. So what are some things that, you know, what are just some more insights that people who are listening can draw upon from your Kundalini experience and into their life in terms of developing in this direction or going deeper into their current experience of authentic self and awakening?
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately if we're feeling that desire for self-evolution, like, to me, that's the root of this, why you would step onto this path. If you really have a desire to grow, to embody more power, to access deeper levels of creativity, to start to understand the higher mind and how to operate from that sort of higher intuitive place. So to me, if we're interested in that, this is definitely a path for you. Some people may be interested in just working through the yoga practice to heal on a very physical level, and that's so relevant as well. And some people may, you know, be already working with the breath, and they may have experienced the direct result of breath regulation in their lives, and that may be inspiring them. So I do think there's a little bit for everybody here. Obviously, the deeper your motivation and commitment to really being open-minded and scientific, if you like, in your exploration of these practices, then the faster your inner revelations will come, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would say to anybody here, the breath is really the first pathway to pursue. Obviously, the physical practice, yes, but I'm sort of feeling like maybe most people are already on some level accessing their physical body. And if you're not, just get into a yoga class anywhere and start to move in ways that invites greater circulation and mobility, agility, stability, all of that. But then start to regulate your breath, because the moment we deepen our breaths and breathe consciously, we pull ourselves out of the momentum of our own unconsciousness.
Wow.
That breath is the bridge into the conscious domain. And so just following your breath, long deep breathing, 5 minutes in the morning and evening, wow, just that can create a big shift. The key here with any of these practices is consistently over time with devotion, with dedication, that approached in that way the inner world starts to reveal, or we start to understand ourselves, I guess, at a deeper level is maybe a simpler way to put that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've mentioned that before, like that, the consistency.
Yes.
So these are scientific, I mean, these are ancient scientific techniques.
Yes.
So the consistency over time
Yes.
will start to reveal deeper parts of ourselves.
Yes.
And I love when you describe that state of being where no longer reacting to the past, I should have done this, or blame, or worry about the future.
Yeah.
The mind is kind of calming down. It can be there, but you can witness it.
Yes.
The energetic field is I want purifying or releasing or healing,
Yes.
and the physical, and then it reveals this kind of like water, calm water reflecting the soul's image.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
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 Let's describe a little bit more about living from that state of being.
Yeah, I think, I feel that living from this state of being is the doorway into literally another dimension of our capacity as human beings, as our capacity as a collective, as a capacity as a species, that we're living to just a fraction of what is possible. And the yogis have spoken about this for centuries, about the power that we have as human beings, how profound it is that we get to be born in this particular vehicle because of the capacity to refine our nervous systems, to read and experience subtler and subtler parts of ourselves, because of the capacity of our brain, and not just the surface analytical brain, but the deeper brain that really is able to experience the oneness of life. So to me, if we could all just access that seat of ourself, just that sense of personal power, of presence, of connection to self, to the greater intelligence of the universe, to each other, that if we're living from this unbound present self, where we're not just repeating things from the past, then we're going to be able to access greater downloads of information, greater artistry. We're going to individually and collectively start to solve some of the issues that are plaguing our world today. And it's going to come when we take action to change the way that we are being and the way that we are experiencing ourselves in the world. And that's why the yoga tradition points us inwardly. No, don't just try to work on the outer world. Work here, because as soon as you start to clear the lenses of your perception so that you actually see things as they truly are, not as they are because of a projection you have in the moment, because of a pain you've experienced in the past, for example, but just to start to clear so that we really can see more clearly. And then we can start to be very evolutionary, and as I said before, way more adaptable. You know you're on track when you become adaptable to change, when you become adaptable to whatever situation is coming to you. You're not reacting to it anymore. You're not reacting out of fear. You're not trying to manipulate your life because you're fearful that if you don't try to manipulate this person or this such circumstance, that things are not going to be okay for you. So it's really learning how to embody this inner state of being where there's an innate trust in ourself, in who we experience ourselves to be. There's an innate trust that the greater intelligence of the world is supporting us in our lives and in our evolution. And so that sort of alludes to the underlying principle in yoga, that there is this greater intelligence that is expressing through all things, and that this intelligence is not against us, but for life. It's for life. It's for evolution. You just have to look at how, things are evolving, and it's springtime now. Everything's growing and expanding around us. That life wants that from us. It wants us to break free of limitation, and we're put in this human vehicle, and wow, we have all these capacities to unlock within us. So that's what I'm excited about in life. Anyway, that.
That's beautiful.
It's a long answer.
Well, it is, and I love how you bring it back to the evolution and the engagement in taking action. That we've talked about this in the past, how it's very much living from this place and then taking action in the world and continuing to it. And then also, if we want to wrap up soon, but just talk a little bit how then this creates a resilience to the busyness and the distractions and so forth. So talk a little bit about, so you can have these experiences while you're on the mat or on the pillow, and then you're starting to engage in the world, and talk a little bit about that resilience and the guidance that comes and how to maintain that while taking action in the world and being engaged. I mean, we had Congressman Tim Ryan earlier, and he was talking about, let's, spiritual folks, yoga, let's get engaged in politics and so forth. So could you speak to that just a little bit? Not about the politics, but about just how the state of being and then engaging in the resilience that can come from and the guidance.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is that we want to learn how to create from stillness, because that stillness, if we can access sort of a still spaciousness within us, then the actions that are going to come forth from that place of stillness, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be more in alignment with our core self, our true identity, our soul, you could say. So what we want to do is actually be practicing in a way that we can cut through the distractibility of the mind, that we can start to create coherence between the mind and the heart and access this place of greater awareness. So how do we do that? In my experience, the fastest way to get there is to do kriyas. And I don't want to make this about promoting a particular kind of yoga, because all yoga is about union, creating a integrated state of being. But doing practices that have a dynamism to them, that have breath integrated in them, that actually shift your energy, so that your mind can center in a different frequency than the frequency of, as my husband calls it, the frequency of addiction or the frequency of distraction. We actually shift the energy, and suddenly there's mental space. That's where the inspiration, creativity, intuition all starts to come online. Then if we are on a daily basis accessing this place, then we'll be able to navigate our life circumstances with a lot more ease. Plus, I will say, there's a reason in the yoga tradition we like to practice in the morning, because you wake up, you set your energy for the day, and then you've literally set your frequency. So the law of attraction states, has been proven, whatever you're vibrating, you're going to attract something that's vibrating at a similar frequency. So you wake up, you set your energy, you set your intention for the day, whether it's to be of service or stay connected or get through a certain project you have going, but you set your intention, and then you and your energy, and now you will attract these circumstances that will reflect that. And you will be able to be less influenced in a negative way by circumstances around you, and more able to resource from that place of deep stillness. So you can take a pause when you're provoked before you react and instead respond. You can access a different level of solution for a certain problem that you've been presented with. And it's going to keep coming from this internal reference point, from this relationship with your deeper self.
Beautiful, beautiful, Kia. You're so clear and articulate with this. And it's also, there's a presence when you share. It's just really quite beautiful. And so any closing comments for folks who are listening? You know, people could be anywhere around the world. They could be in different stages of their, you know, Hatha yoga practice or Kundalini or Kriya yoga practice. They could be in different states of watching CNN. So,
well, I want to say that if you're watching this, I know that you're on the path to consciousness because of what Shift Network is doing, because of what you're doing, Philip. So I bow to you who are on a journey to know yourself at a greater level, to be part of the solution, to be evolving in yourself, in your relationships, in your life. And if you don't practice yoga, give it a try. If you've never practiced Kundalini yoga and Kriya before, really encourage you to give it a try. And meditate. The great thing is nowadays, meditation's become like a real buzzword, and all over this country, at least in the United States, there are meditation studios now. This was not there even 10 years ago. And it's so exciting that there are support systems in place for you to begin a deeper journey in understanding yourself and being in the process of self-correction or self-reflection, self-correction. So thank you for being you on the path, all of you out there, and thank you, Philip, for allowing me this moment in time to share.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, and thank you, Kia. I mean, it's such a delight. And I'm sitting here looking at your website, kiamiller.com, also, and just encourage people to check that out. You can learn more about Kia, her work there, and join you in Rishikesh next year at the International Yoga Festival.
Yes, truly one of the greatest blessings ever, I think, to go sit on the banks of the Ganga, right there where the yoga tradition has been present for thousands of years. You can feel it in the unified field, and just the pure dedication and devotion of Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji and Sadhvi Ji, who run the International Yoga Festival. It's so inspiring for me every time I go there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, my friend, thank you so much.
Thank you, Philip.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining the Yoga of Healing and Awakening Summit, brought to you by the Shift Network. To learn more, visit yogaofhealingsummit.com. To learn more about our global programs and events, visit theshiftnetwork.com. Thank you again for joining us and for sharing this powerful journey of yoga as a divine life path.